discuss the latest on yesterday's fatal ICE shooting in Houston. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Robert Arnold. Thousands of pregnant Texans are driving hours for prenatal care as rural maternity services disappear. We'll have a look at the growing crisis and what's behind it.
Plus, looking for a fun, free way to keep kids reading and thinking all summer? The Houston Public Library's summer reading program has something for every age, and they're here to tell us more.
As always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump says the U.S. ceasefire with Iran is over. He said it on the sidelines of the NATO summit in Turkey this morning as reporters asked him about the U.S.'s latest retaliatory strike on Iran overnight. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben reports on Trump's remarks in Ankara.
These strikes extend a conflict that European countries just didn't want to be a part of. And now Trump, of course, has said that he considers the ceasefire dead. Now, add on to all of that the other Trump NATO baggage, which is considerable. The White House had gone into this summit prepared to continue pushing NATO countries to spend more on defense, as they have been pushing for throughout his presidency. And Trump this morning also repeated that he wants the U.S. to take over Greenland, so taking territory from a fellow NATO member, which doesn't go over well with other NATO members.
NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben traveling with the president. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear is trying to find out what's going on with one of his state's U.S. senators, Republican Mitch McConnell. The Democratic governor sent a letter to McConnell's office inquiring about the former Senate Majority Leader after the 84-year-old was admitted to the hospital weeks ago. Here's NPR's Gloria Grisales.
Top Senate Republican leaders said they had lengthy and substantive conversations with McConnell by phone this week. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who succeeded McConnell in the job, said they discussed national security, while Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso said over a 20-minute conversation, he and McConnell caught up on Senate races, the July recess, and a defense funding bill. The 84-year-old, a polio survivor, has not been seen or heard from since his June 14th hospitalization. Public safety scanner traffic posted by streaming platforms captured a medical call to McConnell's D.C. home. D.C. Fire and EMS dispatch reported an unconscious person, later saying CPR was in progress. Claudia Grisales, NPR News.
At least 17 states are affected by an intestinal parasite known as Cyclospora. Houston Public Media's Sonia Kinua has more.
Cyclospora is typically bred through the contamination of food and water with feces and can be linked to several raw food sources. While the condition is not easily passed person to person, the symptoms can be troubling. They include nausea, cramping and bloating associated with diarrhea, and fatigue. Catherine Troisi, a professor of epidemiology at UT Health School of Public Health, says the intestinal bug is rarely fatal, but
if you are sick, it is important to contact your healthcare provider because the illness can be treated with antibiotics, and left untreated, particularly in the elderly, the very young, people with immunocompromising diseases, it can be quite serious.
Troisi advises to wash your hands and produce with hot water when preparing raw foods to avoid getting sick. For NPR News, I'm Sonia Kinua in Houston.
This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harrop. Multiple elected officials are calling for an independent investigation into the shooting death of an undocumented immigrant in Magnolia Park yesterday. An Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent shot and killed Lorenzo Salgado Arujo after they say he attempted to ram an ICE law enforcement vehicle with his car. Immigrant rights groups are disputing that claim. Patricia Cruz is a U.S. citizen who lives in the area. She says there's been an increase in ICE activity recently.
They are targeting the neighborhood. My sister got stopped a couple of weeks ago, and they just ran into her like she was a criminal, and that's not right. That's not right. We're being targeted.
The FBI is leading the investigation into what happened. Harris County Attorney Abbie Kamin, Harris County Commissioner Rodney Ellis, Democratic Harris County Judge candidate Letitia Plummer, Houston City Councilmember Alejandra Salinas, and U.S. Representative Sylvia Garcia are amongst the elected officials calling for that independent investigation. Meanwhile, at Houston City Council earlier today, Mayor John Whitmire commented on the incident.
I wish it was something that we just didn't didn't have to deal with. But I do recognize the good training of HPD and the policies of Chief Diaz, that there was no involvement of HPD.
Family members of Salgado Araujo spoke earlier this morning, calling for an independent investigation by the Houston Police Department and the Harris County District Attorney's Office. Stay here. We will have continuing coverage of what happened just ahead on Hello Houston. Meanwhile, Harris County Public Health says it's confirmed 18 cases of cyclospora in our region. That's the stomach bug associated with a parasite outbreak you just heard about on NPR that has sickened hundreds of people around the country. The illness has been linked to not washing fresh produce. Harris County Public Health is urging people to take extra care of their food, especially when outside. Now, most healthy people will recover just fine. However, immunocompromised folks might need to take extra care. It's 87 degrees right now here on the UH campus, and expect a high of 97 today. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Subaru. The 2026 Subaru Outback features new styling as well as standard symmetrical all-wheel drive and EyeSight driver assist technology. Learn more at Subaru.com/Outback.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. A difficult day. Ernie Manouse here with you. Sitting in with me is Robert Arnold. And it's really good to have you here for a day like today, where we can rely on your many years of reporting and investigation, understanding how situations play out. So first of all, thank you for being here today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me in.
I want to remind everyone, yes, there was an ICE shooting in our community, and so slightly different tone as we start the show. This is a place for you to talk, for you to share your thoughts and feelings as we watch what's happening in our own community. If you have reactions, concerns, questions that you want asked, we have a good roster of guests coming in to join us today to talk about this situation. So give us a call, 713-440-8870, and we can talk about what we're learning, what we understand, what we actually know as compared to what we don't know, which, Robert, you've been talking with me a little bit about this morning, too, is the fact that we're often very quick to rush to judgment today, and we need to always take time to see the facts of a situation.
Well, you have to. I mean, you have to let the investigation play out and then make your decisions based on the findings of that investigation. Right now, we have ICE's statement. ICE's statement say that they tried to pull this man over. He tried to avoid arrest. He tried to ram an agent, and the agent fired his weapon in self-defense. Now you have others calling for an independent investigation. According to ICE, the FBI and Department of Homeland Security's Office of Inspector General will be leading this investigation. It's a little bit unique in that you do have a fatal shooting in Harris County, and while technically the district attorney's office would have jurisdiction to have a standard civil rights investigation, a grand jury investigation, they don't have control over the evidence in this particular situation because it's a shooting involving a federal agent. So that agency, as well as the FBI, will be handling the investigation, look at the investigation along with the U.S. Attorney's Office. Now, they can invite local authorities in to work alongside them. That happens. I think the last time we had a federal agent shoot and kill a person in Harris County was 2018. It was an FBI agent during a kidnapping hostage situation. Right. And I remember HPD working with the FBI alongside, going over the evidence and everything. And that turned out to not be a good shooting. It turned out to be a bad shooting. But I remember the FBI inviting HPD in at that point. We have not heard yet as to whether those discussions even been had. Has the district attorney even reached out to ICE or the FBI to say, we would like, our people, working alongside your people, reviewing the evidence as it comes in. If HPD's reached out, anything. We have not heard that yet. That's something we're going to have to wait to hear.
Scheduled to have on the show today Alejandra Salinas, who's a Houston City Council member, and Abbie Kamin, who is the interim Harris County attorney, are both scheduled to be on the program today. There's still a press conference going on, and they are both there, so we will keep you updated if they join us, when they can join us. And I bring that up because as we talk about this issue, as we talk about this story, these are the voices we need to be hearing from. But also, as with all of us, as you've said, the information is very limited, what we have. In other cases that we've seen involving ICE, very quickly all of these home cameras come out and cell phone videos, and you see things from different points of view and all that. This has been very limited so far. It was earlier in the day. There was not a grouping gathering beforehand. A lot of these other cases, it was at a major incident was happening, so people had already been out in the streets and had their cameras posed.
Well, I was going to say that's a huge difference as opposed to what we saw in Minneapolis, where you would have these large, very public, very visible ICE enforcement operations going on. So you already had the public out, lining the streets, so to speak, in many cases, with their cameras already watching everything that was happening, and then a shooting would happen while people were watching. Yeah. This is different. No one was expecting that in two dark SUVs. Nobody automatically thinks, oh, this is an ICE enforcement operation. So
joining us right now, we do have Houston City Council member Alejandra Salinas, who has just come from the press conference that was going on. Welcome to the program. I want to say good morning, but that's a hard phrase to use on a day like today. Any updates on information that you can share with us that maybe can help us understand better what happened?
Well, first off, thank you for having me on this very difficult day in the city of Houston. As you mentioned, yes, I was just at the press conference with the family and many officials, and Mr. Salgado's son shared the very difficult events of yesterday. They shared how their father woke up in the morning to go about his day, go and do his work, help provide for his employees, and was stopped, before the sun came out by ICE. Mm-hmm. And there are no words to express the sadness that we feel for the family and for all Houstonians right now to know that this violence is happening right here in our neighborhoods. But know that my message to all Houstonians today is to not be in fear, and to know that so many Houstonians stand with you regardless of your status. You deserve to be here. We know you are a fabric of the city, and the hate we are hearing from some does not reflect the heart of the city.
Mm-hmm. A part of this where the concern comes from is that the reports we get of what actually happened in the moment seem to just be coming from federal authorities. And there seems to be a building distrust in those kind of reports, but not unfounded. We have seen this repeatedly where initial reports that have come out have not actually matched the evidence when we've seen it. Are there any other sources of information? I know KHOU was showing a video of what seemed to be the victim's truck, but it seems to not continue through what happened in the incident. So we're really not clear. Is there other existing information that you know of, have heard of? Has HPD said anything?
I'm not aware of any further information from the Houston Police Department, although I certainly hope if they have any information, if there was any flock cameras nearby, any type of video footage that HPD has, I would hope and demand that it be released immediately to the public, but I'm not aware of any at this time. And you were right, what we have right now is mostly the information from the federal government, and the federal government has not proven to be a trusted source on this issue. As you mentioned, they made statements before about other murders committed by ICE that proved to be false when we saw the video footage. And so ICE needs to earn our trust, and they have lost it based on their conduct. And based on everything we understand about this individual, there's no reason to believe that he engaged in the conduct that ICE is alleging. But all we can do right now is demand for an independent and transparent investigation. That's what Houstonians deserve. If your mother or father had been murdered, then you would demand answers to understand how that death occurred. And this family deserves nothing less.
Councilmember, have you had any indication or had any talks with anybody from HPD as to whether they've already reached out to ICE or the FBI to ask and be included in the evidence gathering process as it's happening rather than after the fact?
I have spoken with the chief of police, and my understanding is that HPD is not involved in the investigation. And my understanding is the mayor has just publicly said that he will decline HPD's involvement in the investigation. I know myself and others will continue to look into this issue to see whether and how the city or the county should become involved. But we need independence. We cannot have the same people that pulled the trigger conducting the investigation to determine whether or not it was proper. I think it is quite concerning that ICE has said that they will investigate the potential assault on the ICE officer rather than the death of Mr. Salgado. I think that tells us everything we need about what they're concerned with, and that is not what Houstonians are concerned with.
But to be fair, though, the FBI has said that it is the lead investigating agency, so it's not exactly the same people who pulled the trigger, as you say. So the FBI will be leading that. But, I mean, would you want HPD? I mean, you're asking for independence here. Have you pushed back with the mayor or HPD as to why they're not going to be involved in the investigation? I'm not saying leading it, but at least be there alongside as the investigation unfolds.
So I learned about the mayor's statements just moments before I came on air with you right now, but I absolutely believe there needs to be some type of independent arbitrator, investigator providing information to the public, whether that be HPD, whether that be in connection with the DA's office. There needs to be some independent source. And based on how the federal government has handled prior investigations, I don't believe it can just be left to the federal government.
A question that comes to mind is we heard throughout the campaign and the president's time in office that they're going after the worst of the worst. And I guess I'm curious, what do we actually know about Mr. Salgado's record here in our area? He has been here, it seems, many, many years, but they keep referring to the fact he was working toward getting his permit to be here. Do we know his situation where he was at? And please, with that question, do not assume that there's any rationale for someone to be shot down in the streets unarmed or having not caused a threat to anyone else. But I am curious to understand who this person is.
Well, for those who want to learn more about him, I would encourage you to watch the statements given by his family this morning. No one knows a father better than his sons, and they shared beautifully how much their father meant to him. Mr. Salgado has been in this country for over 35 years. He is a loving father. One of his sons graduated from the University of Houston. One of his sons graduated from Tufts, and another is working and getting his degree in Washington, D.C. They are all U.S. citizens. They have all contributed to this country. Mr. Salgado was a small business owner. He owned a construction company, and he was on his way to work with his employees. And he was concerned about their livelihood and making sure that he created an opportunity not only for his family, but for them as well. That's the kind of individual this was. There is no indication whatsoever that this man had a criminal record, that he was any threat to anybody in the city of Houston, and that there'd be any basis for killing him the way that we understand occurred yesterday.
Your understanding of how he met his end is what at this point, from where you sit?
I have no further information beyond what's been reported to the public, which is an ICE officer used his weapon to kill Mr. Salgado. And the question is, was there some basis to do so? And this is why we need an independent, transparent investigation to figure out the answer to that question. What we know is that when ICE has previously used the word weaponized, they have been wrong and misled the public. And that is the exact word they used to describe what Mr. Salgado did. So we need answers and we need independent investigation. And to the extent the government, the federal government or the local government has any footage, or if anyone in the public has any footage at all, it needs to come out and be released to the public immediately so we can evaluate what occurred to Mr. Salgado and so the family can get an answer as to what occurred to their father and beloved husband.
Well, according to ICE's statement, Mr. Salgado tried to ram the agent, and the agent fired in self-defense. That's their statement, and that's what we're saying. You've got nothing beyond ICE's formal statement that was released.
I'm not aware of any other corroborating information from ICE to support that statement. All we know is that they have made very similar statements in prior situations, and when the footage has been released, it is proven to be false. So we need that independent information to verify whether or not ICE's representation is correct.
And either Councilman or Robert, either of you may know the answer to this. When they talk about the officer being rammed or about to be rammed, in a vehicle, or was the officer out on foot? Do we know that?
The statement did not specify. It said that they tried to pull him over. He tried to avoid arrest. And again, I'm referring to ICE's statement here. And he refused multiple verbal commands. And then it just simply reads that Mr. Salgado tried to ram the agent, and the agent fired in self-defense. It does not specify whether he was on foot or still in the car, getting out of the car. It's not that specific.
And I believe we know he was shot in the abdomen, correct? Is that what
I believe
we
that's what was heard,
understand?
and that he was taken to the hospital in Brownstead at the hospital, I believe.
That is my understanding as well.
Yeah. Okay. Just trying to understand this. This is something that you were very concerned with when you ran for office, is these things happening in our community. And now that you're seeing it, what assurance can we get from you, from City Council, to remind people that for the most part, this is a safe community? How do we ensure people realize that in moments like this?
Well, you're absolutely right. This was a big issue for me when I ran. And obviously, I worked alongside many of my colleagues to try to push to reduce HPD's cooperation with ICE for this very reason. We heard at the time that the violence ICE was perpetuating was occurring elsewhere. It's not a problem for Houston to deal with. But this week, that has proven to be false. The violence that ICE has perpetuated is right here in our backyard. And this is why we need to be as vigilant as ever to ensure that we are doing the bare minimum under the law to cooperate and support ICE operations. And next week, thanks to the ordinance that we passed, HPD will have to release how often they are contacting ICE, how long those stops occurred, and we will get that information and have a better understanding of what HPD's involvement or coordination with ICE has been, certainly separate and apart from this incident, but otherwise, so voters and Houstonians can decide whether we are comfortable with that level of involvement or whether we need to see a change. But transparency is the first step in that conversation, and I'm so grateful and proud of the hundreds of Houstonians that have already come out to speak out against this violence. But I am hopeful that we will come together as a city. That's who we are as Houstonians. We don't back down. We stand up for one another. And I know we're going to come together to defend and support immigrant communities and try to do everything in our power to change the horrific decisions and policies that we are seeing out of Washington that can lead to this violence.
You use the phrase everything within our power, and it makes me wonder, in light of what happened in this situation, is there new or different legislature or work that you would want to push through Houston City Council? Are there things that we can be doing at City Council that can help to ensure things like this, or what we're assuming happened here, do not happen again?
Well, our ability to control what federal officers can do is obviously limited by federal law. But I think the next step for the City Council is to see the data that we receive next week, have an understanding of what HPD's involvement looks like with ICE following the amended ordinance that Governor Abbie pushed down at City Hall here in Houston, and whether additional actions need to be taken. We will certainly work with community leaders, with other officials to figure out if something is needed. But at this time, I think the best thing we can do is continue to demand information and transparency and thoroughly study the information that HPD will be required to release next week.
A very difficult time for all of us as we await answers. And I think in some places that makes it even harder that you don't have answers even to know what actually happened before people can truly process what happened. You need to know what happened. And as we wait to hear that, I appreciate the work that you're doing, that you're committed to doing. I am a little concerned that even regardless of the situation with HPD's interaction with ICE or lack thereof, however that plays out, that doesn't seem, at least at this point, to have been part of what happened in this particular case. And I think there's lots in our community that worry, no matter what comes of the interaction between HPD and ICE, what do we do to ensure situations like this won't happen again? Or are we totally at the will of those beyond us and that the city of Houston has no control over this?
If I may briefly speak to that.
Yeah.
If you are upset about what is occurring, go out and vote. Go get all of your friends and family to vote. One of the most impactful things we can do to change that policy is to change the elected officials that condone that conduct. We can change who is the governor to ensure that we are not supporting those operations in Texas. We can change the makeup of the House and Senate. And so ICE will finally be held to account. They will be required to wear masks. They will be required to disclose information. They will be required to wear body cameras. We have the power as Houstonians and as Americans to change this outcome. And November is our opportunity to do it. So all of us need to go out, vote, register to vote, do everything in our power to help get elected officials into office that are going to stand with our values and not continue to ignore such an important part of our population.
Well, I mean, I think there's two questions here, because one of the things that you're talking about when you talk about voting, you're talking about immigration law, immigration enforcement. That's one section, but then you have also enforcement actions here. And I don't know how you legislate enforcement actions. Like, if this is what ICE is saying is completely accurate, this was a targeted enforcement operation. So this was a federal agency carrying out an enforcement operation. I don't know how you legislate against something like that, because what you're talking about when you go to vote, you're talking about changing immigration laws. So maybe they don't enforce these types of laws anymore. But I think there's two separate issues there.
Well, it's not just a matter of the actual operation. Right now, we don't have accountability and insight into those operations. Officers are allowed to wear masks. Officers are not required to wear body cameras. Congresswoman Garcia and so many other Houston officials have been pushing to ensure that we change that law. Democrats have been fighting hard for this, but we cannot do it because we do not have a majority in the Senate and the House. If we take that majority, we will be in a position to force ICE to have those accountability and transparency measures. You were right. We may not be able to change a particular operation, but we can ensure that if this happens again, there will be footage that will be released to the American people, and that the people who are harmed by ICE will see their faces, and they will not be able to hide anymore. That is a change that can occur if we are successful in getting Democrats elected this November.
Councilmember, thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. I know that you have another commitment that's coming up in just a couple of minutes, and you got us in here, so we appreciate that. Thank you, Alejandra Salinas, who is a Houston City Councilmember. Thank you for joining us on this difficult day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is concerning. There's a lot. I think the hardest part about covering a story like this, and you faced it many times, Robert, I'm sure, is that when you don't have the information that you need to make evaluations, not even judgments, but just to understand what happened, it's hard to talk about a story, and emotions run high.
Well, it is, because you're always going to have people that automatically are going to have a distrust, as we had talked about, because we have seen other instances where there have been fatal shootings by ICE agents where the initial statement put out by the agency did not match what actually happened. So there's that inherent distrust for many people. Then you have other people that do support what ICE is doing and support ICE's mission. And like you say, without specific facts, you really it's hard to make any kind of a judgment call one way or the other. I mean, unless you're just diametrically opposed or in absolute support of the way the agency is handling itself these days. Yeah, I don't know how you make a call without any of the facts at this point.
One of the wonderful things about this program is that we tout ourselves as a place where Houston can talk. We want to know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, your reactions. 713-440-8870. Alvin is on the line from 3rd Ward. Alvin, what's on your mind?
How you guys doing? Okay, so 2 quick points. One, ICE has an internal policy going back pre-ICE that had to do just simply with immigration officers, that they cannot position themselves in front of a car, because they found in their own internal investigations that agents were putting themselves in front of cars as an excuse to discharge weapons against people. So they actually have an internal policy that forbids them from actually being in front of a car. And you can see that there's a pattern that's metastasizing, where when they're coming across unarmed people that end up being unalived by them, they use an excuse that's strictly forbidden in their own policy. And lastly, let me say this. I'm going to be completely transparent about what I feel is happening here, because when I look at the pattern of how, culturally speaking, of how this unaccountable paramilitary force from the federal government being dispatched across cities is functioning, is that on our 250th anniversary of the birth of America. It was the President of the United States who had members of the White Patriot Front dressed in Rough Riders costumes that were literally sitting behind him while he was making a speech at the Roosevelt Library. In fact, directly behind the president to his right is the leader of the White Patriot Front, literally behind the President of the United States on the same podium. These are the same people who actually marched through Washington on January 4th. And it wasn't very widely covered. These are the same type of people who were part of J6, who the president himself tried to pay out a $2 billion fund for. Folks, let's be honest about what's happening. The mask that these people are wearing as they march with these paramilitary groups, white supremacist paramilitary groups, is the same tactics that they're using with ICE. We just have to we have to start investigating that, because I'm pretty sure that there's definitely correlation there, because culturally they're functioning the same. I land.
Alvin, thank you for calling and sharing with us. Remember, we invite all points of views and perspectives here, but also remember, when people call in, it is opinions that they are sharing with us. 713-440-8870. There is some talk about the policies when what ICE is allowed to do and not allowed to do, and there seems to be some question that they sometimes adjust those in the moment.
Well, I mean, I think every law enforcement adjusts tactical decisions in the moment. However, the gentleman who just called us is correct. The training is, you're not supposed to intentionally block a vehicle or intentionally step in front of a vehicle. You're supposed to approach it from like a tactical, like 90-degree angle. But the one thing I do want to point out, just because the ICE statement said that Mr. Salgado tried to run over the agent, doesn't mean he was going forward. I mean, you can put a car in reverse. And these are details that we don't know yet. Mm-hmm. So, but you're right. I mean, the policy is they don't want officers intentionally stepping in front, but we don't know exactly how that played out.
713-440-8870. Chris from Clear Lake is on the line. Chris, what's on your mind?
Hey, I've enjoyed listening to this segment. And when that council member came online to the call, I thought, personally, she was quick to judge, and her tone was accusatory. And towards the tail end of her conversation, I felt like she was politicking for a certain political party. It is sad. It is sad that we're at this state, but I don't believe we deserve to have council members that are essentially judge and jury in these situations. And to the gentleman's point earlier in the call, be not quick to judge. Let the court proceed, let the investigation proceed, but refrain from making unjust determinations.
Chris, thank you for calling. I will say, as I always say on this program, regardless of your political affiliation, you should be registered and you should be voting. We all have a responsibility to do that. And I think that's what the council member was trying to point to again, that if you want change, you need to vote and be in the process. She definitely comes from a particular political party and point of view, and that is part of what she's going to share. Her big push when she was running for city council was to look at interaction with ICE in our community. That was one of her points, and so I think that's what you're hearing in what she's talking about. But to go back to what we've been saying this entire program so far is that we can't be quick to judge, but I think people are looking back at the history of situations like this, and they're feeling there is a sense of distrust, which I think is the bigger issue we play with this whole story, is the fact that once an agency, once an organization has betrayed your trust, it's hard in situations when they come back to simply trust again. In court, even if you watch Judge Judy, she will say to you on TV, if you lie to me once, then I assume you're lying the whole time. Unfortunately, that's where we go. And so there is a mistrust in a lot of these reports. That's why we're sitting here saying, release what's out there. We need a full report. We need to know what happened so that we can logically and healthily, I guess if that's a word, understand the situation that happened.
Well, that's why I'm a little surprised when the council member said, you heard, and I had not heard yet the remarks from Mayor Whitmire, or that she had spoken to the chief, that they were not going to have any involvement in the investigation. I'm a little surprised at that, because if you want to allay any fears of preferential treatment or evidence not being, thoroughly vetted, then why not have HPD and the District Attorney's Office, Civil Rights Division, which is tasked with investigating law enforcement shootings, looking at this evidence alongside federal partners as, in real time, as it's happening, not after the fact. So I'm a little surprised that those statements had come out yet, that they're not going to be, that HPD is not going to be involved in that. And we haven't heard yet from the DA's office, other than, it has no control over the evidence, and it has no authority to demand that evidence be handed over because it's within a federal jurisdiction, even though technically the DA's office does have the jurisdiction to investigate any homicide that takes place in Harris County. So it's a weird area, but I was surprised that we're not hearing HPD jump on that.
Well, and we are expected to have Abbie Kamin in the second hour, the interim Harris County attorney, with maybe some more answers to that. And I say we're expected to have her on. The press conference is still going on, and many members are still there. 713-440-8870. Melinda is on the line from Alief. Melinda, what's on your mind?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. So I'm a teacher in Alief, and I teach at one of our high schools. And last October, one of my students was being driven to school by his father, and they were targeted by ICE. And it was a very scary situation. They were surrounded. The ICE agents tried to ram the vehicle they were in. I have seen firsthand video from the student. Plus, I've seen video posted online showing that when he and his father ran, and they ran to a local business for safety. And it is, sorry, I'm going to lose it. Seeing grown agents, too, beating up a 16-year-old child is heartbreaking. And I'm sure you mentioned that you remember that incident. As a mandatory reporter, I had to report to the registrar, and I talked to his sister. I have since maintained a close relationship with the sister. We text each other and, keep each other apprised of everything. We did do a temporary withdrawal because we knew that he would need not just the physical time to recover from his injuries, but the mental. And yes, he does have PTSD. And I like to say that he came back in December. He passed all of his classes. He was in and out. He was given the opportunity to express his story and presented his story to a Senate committee, not the full U.S. Senate, but a Senate committee in Washington. But we need to keep his story alive, and we need to keep others alive, because what happened yesterday in the East End is not the first incident of violence at the hands of ICE agents. It is happening. And I will tell you, last fall in October and November, it was not unusual to look out the windows and see the ICE agents just going up and down the road in front of the school. And the city council member is correct that if you want to see a change, you need to vote. And you need to be part of that change.
Melinda, thank you for sharing with us. I'm sorry what you've had to go through, and I'm sorry that this is bringing up such harsh memories for you. But thank you for that message also about how important it is for people to be involved and to vote. Thank you for calling today. Robert, you have another caller with us.
I do. I believe we have Mike Matranga. He's on the line. He's a retired Secret Service agent. I've known Mike for many years, worked with him for many years, and I've asked him to sort of lend his expertise on the process of what happens now, how evidence is gathered in the process going forward on the investigating. Mike, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm good, good. It's good to talk to you again. Thank you very much for doing this, especially on short notice. So kind of walk us through. You've had a federal agent shoot and kill somebody now. What's the process for the way evidence will be gathered and what will happen going forward?
Well, it depends on the protocols of that particular federal agency. Their Office of Inspector General, or for lack of better terms, their Internal Affairs will be involved. They'll more than likely have a secondary agency perform the investigation, like the Department of Justice, which would be the FBI, make sure that all of the department protocols and use of force were followed. A lot of things will be taken into consideration is, what made the officers feel that his or her life was in danger? Was the use of force appropriate and measured? And, that's essentially, the process moving forward. There will be other agencies involved anytime there's an officer involved shooting. Like, for example, at the Secret Service officer involved shooting, Secret Service's Internal Affairs investigation would get involved. They would initially take the lead for a very short period of time, and then they would hand that off to the Department of Justice, especially in regards to threats towards the president or attacks against the president. So this is a little bit different, but there are several layers of investigative protocols that will be put in place.
And there'll still be a grand jury, but it'll be the U.S. Attorney's Office impaneling that grand jury, correct?
Correct. It'll be the U.S. Attorney's Office. Since it's a federal agency that participated in the officer-involved shooting, it will be the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Now, it's kind of strange. It's a little bit of a gray area here because we're so used to the Harris County District Attorney's Office impaneling a grand jury anytime you have an officer-involved shooting. We're used to that being standard operating procedure here. And so while technically the DA's office has jurisdiction, it has no control over the evidence here. Kind of speak to that. It's a weird dichotomy that you have a homicide that technically took place. And I want to remind people, homicide is illegal. Is a term, just an unnatural death. But you have a homicide that took place in Harris County, but yet Harris County really has no, claim or right to review the evidence.
Correct. And that's because we live in the United States. Texas is a state within the United States. Harris County is a county within the state of Texas. And these were federal agents which are authorized by federal law to perform these law enforcement duties. And so therefore they would fall under federal investigative laws. And so with that, the evidence process and handling is, essentially similar, if not the same as, it would be if Harris County were to be taking possession of the evidence or examining the evidence. It's just, essentially it's the same. It's federal versus state. But Harris County would not have a right to have access to that immediately without the federal government granting that permission.
Well, and I don't know if you're willing to go down here. I mean, do you think it's a good idea for Harris County and even HPD to kind of be alongside, not leading the investigation, the FBI is leading the investigation, but to be privy to this evidence in real time, not after the fact, but as it goes along? Do you think that's a good idea to allay any kind of fears or doubts about what happened?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I believe that all agencies, federal, state, local, should be communicating and working together, because here's the deal. It may be federal laws that they were enforcing and when this happened, but at the end of the day, the impact is felt at the local and the state level. And so, having that cooperation amongst agencies, in my opinion, is never a bad thing. It sends a message to the citizens of Harris County that we're all working together for, a positive outcome, a transparent outcome. And if the federal government is not working with local and state officials to try to, provide a transparent process, I think that that's a grave mistake.
Okay. And talk to us a little bit about like tactics here. And I know each agency has different training and policies and procedures on this, but I imagine there's some similarity in approaching a vehicle. ICE trains off agents not to approach to intentionally step in front of a vehicle. I'm assuming Secret Service had the same type of training. Kind of talk about approaching a vehicle to effect an arrest.
Yeah, I mean, every federal agency, whether it be the FBI, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security, ICE, whatever, each agent has to go through, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, or with DOJ, they have their own at Quantico to become what we call an 1811, which is the special agent category or job title. when you become a special agent within the United States government, regardless of agency, there are certain baseline investigative and tactical or tactics that you're trained on. Some of those things are in all of those classes. Each of these agents are taught how to conduct an investigative stop or a felony stop. Some, depending upon the individual and their criminal history or past, it may dictate a different or more aggressive response. Quite frankly, I don't know all of the details. I just got in from vacation late last night, and I'm just now picking up on what happened. But in regards to standing in front of vehicles, nobody's ever taught to stand in front of a vehicle. It's just usually that agent or officer's discretion. Now, what I will say is that before we jump to conclusions and we say that this individual was shot because the officer was standing in front of the vehicle, the officer has a right to stand in front of that vehicle. The individual driving that vehicle has the ability or the right to proceed forward or listen to commands. That individual's decision is going to dictate that response. Now, am I saying that this individual deserved to be shot? Absolutely not. I'm absolutely not saying that at all. What I'm saying is we don't know. We have not seen the body cam footage. We don't know if that officer had the time and distance to get away from the vehicle to not be struck. So what I would say is before everybody gets, out of sorts, let's consider what the resource is of information and how it's coming to us. Let's take away our emotion. Let's look at things from a facts-based scenario or facts-based approach, and let's determine, or a grand jury will determine at some point, did this officer have, reasonable expectation or ability to move out of the direct path of that vehicle. We're also, and that grand jury is also going to, review, did the victim in this case, what were his actions that caused that officer to respond the way that he did. And so, I think the biggest problem we have in the United States is when these things come out, we like to sensationalize, we like to politicize, we like to take sides, we like to invoke emotion in these things instead of just looking at facts. Is it terrible? It's always terrible when somebody loses their life, but was it preventable? I don't know. We'll see. Let's wait and let's see what the body cam footage shows us.
How much of this is going to also come down to the agent articulating fear for his or her life, as you say, which is no different than a citizen articulating that. If a citizen has to, or if a citizen uses deadly force, is that part of the equation too? Yeah. Is that agent articulating that?
It's the majority of the equation. It will be, how did that agent feel at the time in which he or she engaged in that gunfire with that suspect? Did he or she, and I think that the term that we need to consider here is reasonableness. Did they reasonably have enough time to move out of the way, or did they not? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people are going to consider. And really that's what it all boils down to is, they're going to look at policies, but policy violations are not law violations. Could he have moved out of the way? Maybe. But at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to, did they feel that their life was in jeopardy, that they needed to use deadly force to stop that threat towards them? And I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I will wait to see the body cam footage, and I'll be happy to come back on and break down and give you my analysis of whether I thought, that they had enough time or distance to get out of the way.
Well, I'm not even sure there's body cam footage. I mean, I don't believe all ICE agents, it's different from other agencies. I don't believe all ICE agents have body cams at this point. I know there's been a push for that, and some do, but I don't think all of them do.
Mike, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us today, and also for that kind offer to come back once we actually have footage.
Mike, thank you very much for your help today. It was good talking to you again.
Anytime you guys need me. Take care, guys.
Thank you. We're going to continue to monitor this situation. We hope that you'll continue to share with us how you're feeling, thinking, and your thoughts on this particular situation. 713-440-8870. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more Hello, Houston.
Meet Tio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
To get the last quarterfinal spot, Argentina and Switzerland will meet in Kansas City on Saturday. For the first day of this tournament, stadiums will be silent. No whistles, no kicks, no crowds wailing renditions of Wonderwall, El Rey, or Take Me Home, Country Roads. Now, you might wonder how a 55-year-old song resurges as a celebration anthem at a World Cup. The answer? FIFA's Stadium Entertainment Team. Everything is planned to the minute at a stadium. Before the tournament even starts, teams submit a lineup song, a warm-up song, a goal song, and a post-match anthem. Songs then get vetted for political content, and FIFA officials watch crowd reaction and online reaction live, adjusting songs as needed. The U.S. submitted 2 post-game options. The Show Goes On by Lupe Fiasco and Win by J-Rock. After beating Paraguay, SoFi Stadium played The Show Goes On. But where's John Denver? Take Me Home, Country Roads wasn't on the U.S. list. FIFA saw its stadium appeal and pivoted to it in Seattle after the Australia win. Same move for England and Wonderwall, not originally on their list. In case you're wondering, Mexico's El Rey was theirs from day one. I'm Jimmy Moss.
Support for this soccer update comes from Karbach Brewing, makers of Hopadillo IPA, hosting summer soccer at Karbach, featuring live matches on a 14-foot LED screen along with internationally inspired food and drink offerings. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, presenting The Indigo Girls with special guest Linda Perry, October 15th. Tickets available at smartfinancialcenter.net.
Support comes from the Houston Museum of Natural Science in Herman Park, featuring exhibits on dinosaurs, butterflies, stars, and ancient cultures, along with the Burke Baker Planetarium and Cockerel Butterfly Center. More at hmns.org.
Public media comes from listeners like you and from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conference, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
Support also comes from Discovery Green, a 12-acre park in downtown Houston. This summer, Discovery Green is presenting concerts featuring music from around the world. Sundays from 5 to 7 p.m. More information at discoverygreen.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Robert Arnold.
We will return to the current events of the day and what's happening at the top of the hour, and Representative Sylvia Garcia will be joining us. But right now, we're going to switch gears a little bit because there's a lot of parents out there who are concerned about their children's learning over the center. And if you're a parent who wants to prevent your child from being glued to a screen all summer long and spend at least some time reading, the Houston Public Library is inviting Houstonians, and I like this part, of all ages to participate in their summer reading program, which encourages children, teens, and adults to read for fun throughout the summer. Log the pages that they've read while also competing for creative challenges to earn prizes. I want to know about these prizes. Yeah. To tell us more about the summer reading program, good friend of our show, Nicholas Sawicki is here in studio with us. Nick, welcome back to the show.
Ernie, great to be here.
Okay, what are the prizes? Let's start right there.
Well, Ernie, don't worry, there are prizes for adults too.
That's what I want to hear.
So for adults, we have Kindles, Kindle Fires. You know,
really?
E-reading is through the roof in Houston. People are constantly checking out e-books from the library. So we figure we may as well make it a little easier for them.
I was thinking it would be like chocolate bars, things like that. But these are like some really nice gifts.
Well, I guess a book-shaped chocolate bar would be nice.
That'd be kind of cool. Okay, take me back then. I jumped right to the end of it all.
No,
so
you're good.
It's summertime. It's important to keep people learning.
Absolutely. So, you know, one of the key things at the library that we do is the summer reading program, which is sponsored by the John McGovern Foundation. And that makes it possible to help stop the summer slide, what they call the summer slide. A kid who leaves school in May can lose up to 3 months of academic learning, an advantage by the time school starts again, if their brain and their mental acuity is not kept up over the course of the summer. So reading challenges, programs, prizes, things that keep kids mentally engaged, so that way when they start the new school year, they are right on track. Because once you fall behind, getting back on track is one of the hardest things, and we want Houston's kids to stay on track.
So, yeah, Robert?
No, I was going to ask, what does the list entail?
The list?
Yeah,
the summer reading program. So it's for all ages, and there's different buckets, ages 0 to 100.
Okay.
Mel Brooks can still participate.
Yeah, that's right.
He's not like Lego, cut off at 99. And so, and each one has a different set of buckets. But you basically register, you log the books, and the more books you read, the more chances you have to win prizes.
Gotcha.
So for kids, it's, as soon as you register, you get a bookmark, a sticker, all sorts of things. But as you go up, there's a chance to win a bicycle from our partners at Cycle Houston, who've donated almost 50 bikes to be handed out over the course of the summer. We have Nintendo Switches. I don't know how they work. I'm told kids love them. I missed that a little bit.
Yeah, kids only.
Kids love it.
Yeah, just kids.
Yeah, that's right. And there's all sorts of great prizes that have been secured to celebrate people who accomplish great reading goals this summer.
So then how do we verify folks are reading these books?
Well, there's a little bit of the honor system, but they do check it out from the library. So you need a library card, which is free and open to anyone across the city.
That's a great way to get folks to register if they don't have their library cards. Very important to have.
The library card is the key to the world.
Yeah.
And it's free. Yeah. It's the free key to the world. It's a wonderful thing.
And I hate to say this because I know we're talking about reading, but if you have your library card, there are these services that are out there that you can then access through your television, your media collection.
Oh my goodness!
Watch. And it's a really wonderful,
it's
free service.
It's free. There's free streaming services, free music services, a couple hundred databases you have access to, free subscriptions to major newspapers and magazines, all sorts of extraordinary things.
Get your library card.
Well, I thought that goes without saying for any honest Houstonian.
Okay, help me here. I want to get involved in the program. How do I start? Where do I begin?
Anyone who wants to sign up for the summer reading program can join us just by going to houstonlibrary.org, and summer readings right at the top right there. So you go in, you download an app called Beanstack, and that's where you log everything over the course of the summer, and that's how we keep track and mutual accountability on it.
And so when does it wrap up?
So summer reading ends on July 31st. I'm pleased to say over 13,000 Houstonians have already participated in summer reading this year.
Wow.
We hope to see that number go up by July 31st, but every person who participates is just doing themselves a favor.
So when it finishes July 31st, that's when then you'll tally books and prizes and all that.
That's
after
right.
That.
That's
so
right.
you have time to get in. You have time to read. When did it all start?
June 1st.
So people have gotten like a 1 month lead on us?
So they've got a 1 month lead, but Ernie, I believe in you. Robert, I don't know you as well, but I believe in you too.
I have more belief in Robert than I do in myself on this one. Well, it's a fascinating program, and I look for. How many of you read so far? Do you stay active as a reader, or are you so involved with running the library system you don't have a chance to do?
Well, my team at the Library Foundation is so efficient and works so hard that I do have a little time left for reading.
Okay.
I'm in a great book right now on Bernardo del Galvez, after whom Galveston is named. We're doing some Spanish-themed things in the fall, so I wanted to make sure I was up on it. And as well as a great biography on the Marquis de Lafayette, because America 250. I mean, two great American partners right there for our independence, and want to know a little more about them.
So are you a biography nonfiction reader?
I'm a big nonfiction reader.
See, me too. I haven't gotten into a good novel in a very long time, and I know people love that, and summer reading, people are supposed to be doing that. That's another thing. In the program, it doesn't have to be all highbrow reading, does it?
No, I mean, my daughter's reading Anna Karenina at 2.5, but that's a beach read, right?
I just feel so bad right now. Yeah. You guys are talking about, oh my gosh, I'm reading King's Sorrow by Joe Hill because I love horror.
Well, I'll let you two continue to talk about what you're reading, and I quickly want to thank you, Nick. Thank you for coming in and chatting with us. Nick's Executive Director of the Houston Public Library Foundation. And what's the website to go to sign up?
HoustonLibrary.org.
There you go. Do it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be the headlines of the day. You know what story we're talking about. And Representative Sylvia Garcia is here with us, and we'll be talking to her right after the break.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Is your car or truck just sitting in the garage gathering dust? It's time to kick that ride to the curb. When you donate any vehicle to Houston Public Media, you aren't just clearing out the clutter, you're fueling the local programs you rely on. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org/cars.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear from people who really make you think, like astrophysicist Brian Greene explaining the scientific theory that our universe is just one of many.
And the image that I like to have in mind is, imagine that our universe is like one slice of bread in a much grander cosmic loaf, with the other slices of bread being other universes.
No subject is too big for Fresh Air. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Can't get enough PBS programming? PBS Passport is an added member benefit that offers exclusive streaming access to many of your favorite programs on the PBS app. Whether you're an NPR listener, a PBS watcher, or both, your ongoing donations of at least $5 per month qualify for PBS Passport. Make your gift now to start watching at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Good morning, I'm Tom Carter. 30% chance of an afternoon shower or thunderstorm today, and we'll get up to around 97. It's 89. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12:01.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump says the U.S. ceasefire may be over with Iran at the conclusion of the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey today. Trump threatened retaliatory U.S. strikes against Iran. He was flanked by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Trump arrived at the summit with grievances about the U.S.'s NATO allies, such as their resistance to be all in with the U.S. on the war with Iran, and protests they were not spending enough on alliance defense. The president seemed to strike a different tone this afternoon.
There was tremendous unity in that room, and I urge all nations to accelerate their plans to get the benchmark as quickly as possible. The benchmark is going to be that 5% number. That's the number it should have been for years.
Trump says the U.S. invested $1 trillion on defense and would ask for $1.5 trillion in the next fiscal year. During a joint appearance with Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky earlier in Ankara, Trump said he would give Ukraine the license to build missiles for Patriot air defense systems as Russia stepped up ballistic strikes on the Ukrainian capital. From Kyiv, here's NPR's Joanna Kakissis.
Ukraine's military uses U.S.-made Patriot systems to intercept ballistics, but has run low on the air defense missiles for these systems. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has pushed for weeks for the license to produce these missiles, and Trump finally agreed in Ankara.
We're going to give a license to you to make Patriots. That's pretty cool, right? This way you can't complain that we're not giving them enough. I say, make them yourself.
Trump says the U.S. is prepared to sign a drone deal with Ukraine. After the meeting, Zelensky posted on social media that Ukraine and the U.S. can accomplish a lot together. Joanna Kakissis, NPR News, Kyiv.
Several large wildfires burning across Colorado are being stoked by hot, dry, and windy weather. The Ferris fire has grown to nearly 60,000 acres and forced rural residents to evacuate overnight. More from Colorado Public Radio's Stina Sieg.
The Ferris fire is burning through mostly public land, high desert, and rugged canyons in the Four Corners area. In southwest Colorado, the Gold Mountain fire is still largely uncontained outside Ouray, though the small alpine community has been spared and remains open. Farther east, the Aspen Acres fire outside of Pueblo has grown into one of the largest wildfires in Colorado history, burning hundreds of structures. Late last month, 3 federal firefighters died after being trapped by a blaze near the Utah border. Governor Jared Polis has issued multiple disaster declarations. For NPR News, I'm Stina Sieg in Grand Junction, Colorado.
It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Jack Williams. Our top story this hour, our continuing coverage of the ICE shooting in the East End yesterday of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo. He was an undocumented immigrant who had been in the country for more than 3 decades. ICE says he tried to run over an ICE agent during an incident near Canal and Wayside early Tuesday. News 88.7's Tom Perumian has been following the story and was at a LULAC press conference earlier. He joins us live. Tom, what did his family say today?
Well, Jack, the press conference at the Greater Houston Coalition for Justice talked about the type of father that Lorenzo Salgado Araujo was. Son Ronaldo, holding back emotions, spoke of his father as a hard-working family man, a business owner, and a man who, after 35 years as an undocumented citizen, sought to become a naturalized U.S. citizen. Following Salgado, of course, was a phalanx of politicians, all demanding a full investigation into what happened to determine accountability. And this included firebrand Congressman Al Green, who proclaimed that he would end ICE as we know it. From North Houston, I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Meanwhile, Houston Mayor John Whitmire says HPD had no part in the ICE operation yesterday or that incident.
I wish it was something that we just didn't have to deal with, but I do recognize the good training of HPD and the policies of Chief Diaz, that there was no involvement of HPD.
Stay with News 88.7 and HoustonPublicMedia.org for the very latest on this story throughout the afternoon and tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Harris County Public Health says it has confirmed 18 cases of cyclospora in our region. That's the stomach bug associated with a parasite outbreak, once again, that has sickened hundreds of people around the country. In sports, the Astros take on the Nationals in Washington, D.C. tonight in Game 2 of their series. Houston beat the Nats last night. Warm the rest of the afternoon, a chance of scattered thunderstorms, the high around 96. Partly cloudy tonight, the low 78. It's 89 now. I'm Jack Williams, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse.
Hello, we are back again on the program today. Sitting in with me is a seasoned reporter, newsman. Robert Arnold is here joining us as my special guest host, and I could not think of a better person to be sitting in today on such an important news day.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, it's wonderful to have you. We have been talking a lot about the shooting that happened in our own community. An ICE agent has shot a gentleman who presides here in Houston and killed him. But the details are scarce around what actually happened. Joining us in studio is U.S. Congressmember Sylvia Garcia. She represents Texas 29th, which is where this took place. Representative, thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you for having me. I'm here with a heavy heart.
Yeah, I understand you were with the family at the hospital yesterday.
I was. They were still not getting any information from ICE or the FBI or anyone about the status of their father, Lorenzo Salgado Araujo. So I was there with his son, just trying to demand answers from Ben Taub and all the different agencies involved, because frankly the family was being bounced around in the bureaucratic, they're handling it, and they just needed answers. It was just adding another layer of cruelty to the already cruel and inhumane shooting of this man.
I guess what we understand is he was shot in the abdomen and was brought to the hospital.
I've not confirmed it. That's the news reports that I've been getting. I've talked.
I believe that came from HFD. Who transported him.
Yeah, I've not talked to HFD. I have talked to the chief of police. I've talked to the Metro Examiner's office, to Ben Taub, and no one was giving us any real answers yesterday, which was adding just so tremendous pressure. I mean, people need to understand that this is just not, as ICE would like to characterize as some, Mexican national, some illegal alien. I mean, this is a man who has a wife, who has 3 sons, I think one is a U of H graduate, the other one went to, I forget the other college, but all three are the family. I mean, they've been living here for 35 years, Houston residents, law-abiding. He has no criminal history. And people need to hear that loud and clear. ICE can say whatever they want, but this man had no criminal history. I have confirmed that with our local DA's office. And we don't know why he was targeted. I know there's already been some anecdotes about, racial profiling, but there doesn't seem to be any answers.
We do know, though, that he was undocumented, correct?
He was in the process of getting his work permit. He applied early last year, and was just months away from getting it.
And I mean no disrespect by saying that question. It's just to understand the facts of the situation, not that warrants what happened to him, but just so people understand.
Is it possible that application is what put him on ICE's radar? I mean, the fact that he'd been here 35 years, but he is just now applying for a work permit, that possibly triggered an ICE investigation.
I don't want to speculate, but I will say this, that we have seen, especially with DACA recipients, dreamers who are going through the process and are trying to renew their applications, that everything is being slow walked, but they're using that information that's fresh and good to then detain them, and in some cases deport them. DACA recipients we know of, there's close to 100 that have been deported, and they were all in process of renewals. The administration is simply ignoring the first word of DACA, deferred. You defer action. So it could be that, again, they have fresh information. The son at the press conference today described that his father had already provided all his information, his biometrics, his fingerprints, everything. So that, I think that is a question that needs to be asked, and we certainly are going to pursue, and I've called for an independent, complete, thorough investigation to make sure that we know the facts. We need to know why he was targeted, who authorized the operation, why did ICE name the dad's name to give it to the press before the family was even told. I mean, I've dealt, as you all know, I'm a judge and former judge and lawyer. I mean, I've dealt with law enforcement almost all my career. It's standard practice, in my view. Maybe it's just a custom, but they usually don't release names until they inform next of kin.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But to have this son have to find out through the press that ICE had released the name and then see the statement from ICE before the family's even been told anything, that's just cruel. So it's more that, we need to remember this is a family. These are human beings. They need to be treated with dignity and respect. And anything that ICE is saying is just allegations. It's their assertion. But we have the memories. If you look at the statement they issued after the Renee Good shooting and look at the statement they're issued today, it's almost like the same story, that he resisted and evaded arrest, that he weaponized his vehicle, that he tried to run over an officer, and the officer, in self-defense, shot him. Well, didn't they even learn that you don't have to shoot the driver if you want to stop the car? You shoot the tires. Mm-hmm. I mean, even we know that. Any kid on the street knows that. So it just seems to be the same playbook. We may have gotten rid of Kristi Noem, but the playbook is still there. If they want to ban a book, let's ban that book. Put it away. Let's treat people with their rights protected, with treating them with dignity and respect, and then let the chips fall where they may. If they find out that he in fact was involved with something that we didn't know of, because again, he has no criminal history. We have verified that. Why were they looking? Why was he a target? And they've got 3 others in detention, and we're made inquiries from ICE on those yesterday.
These three individuals were with Mr. Araujo?
Right. He is a contractor. He owns his own business. Mm-hmm. He had gotten up in the morning, his usual routine, had breakfast, visited with his wife, and then went in his van with equipment to do his day's work. I think it was a project, I believe, in New Caney. And he went by to pick up, I think it was his brother, because they refer to him as uncle, so his maybe his brother and 2 others who were workers. They were all going to work. Okay. So a lot of things don't make sense, and it's early. It just happened yesterday, so we'll have to wait to see how more facts surface. But right now, I can tell you unequivocally, this man has no criminal history. He is as a family who has contributed to our city, has been a law-abiding resident of the city of Houston for 35 years.
I guess the biggest problem that we have as a culture, as a society, is we jump to judgment. And you can say sometimes people have knee-jerk reactions. In these situations, as you've already mentioned, we have a track record of information that has been put out by the government has not been accurate to what actually we see when we see footage there. So I think a lot of people find it very easy to jump to this conclusion here yet again. But that what I heard throughout the press conference today and what you're even saying is we have to wait to see actually footage, to see what actually happened, to understand what happened in the moment. Your thoughts?
Well, and LULAC has set up a portal. We do, if anyone was near the event, saw anything, videotaped anything, they need to either call my office or call LULAC because it's going to be important. Because again, if you look at what happened with Renee Good, ICE put out the story. Mm-hmm. Same thing, weaponized the car. Officer defended himself, shot the person. Same story here. But it was the videos that surfaced later that showed that what ICE had said was not completely true.
So
in fact, it looked very fabricated to many of us.
So what happens when we lose faith in our systems, when we can no longer trust the words that are coming out of different government agencies?
Well, we have to make change, Ernie. And, I've appeared in your show before and talked about that's why we as Democrats, and I'm a Democrat, and this is not a political statement, it's just we will not vote for any more money for ICE until they make changes. It was good that they got rid of Kristi Noem, but if their new leader follows the same playbook, then what changes really happened? Mm-hmm. We had 10 reforms. Among them were independent investigations, allowing local officials to investigate to see if any local crimes were committed, making sure that they were identified. The son mentioned that it was 2 unmarked cars. When you look at the video, it's 2 black unmarked cars, one ahead and one behind, that the father may have just been scared. There was no identification that there was a police or law enforcement car.
And I'm guessing the 3 individuals who were detained no one's talked to them yet. Independent of ICE. I'm talking about family members.
No, we've made, again, my office made inquiries to ICE as of yesterday and as of this morning, even coming over here. We still have gotten nothing from ICE in response. In fact, they actually told my team that they didn't have enough staff to deal with all our inquiries, which is ludicrous. Mm-hmm. So we're going to the top, and I'm demanding answers because this family needs answers. Houston needs answers because on the way over here, I heard, and I've not followed up yet because I just heard it, that ICE may have had another raid somewhere in the Spring area. So we've got to put a stop, and we've got to make sure that when they're in our city, that they follow the law, that they follow the protocols, and that they're here to protect our citizens, not to abuse them, and not to do what they did yesterday to this man and shoot him.
I want to remind everyone we are speaking with U.S. Representative for Texas' 29th Congressional District. Congressmember Sylvia Garcia is here with us right now.
What about the fact that apparently at this time Mayor Whitmire and Chief Diaz said that they're not going to ask to be partners on the investigation or to at least be observers on the investigation? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I understand at this time that they would say that because, frankly, the federal, it's even when I made inquiries, because my first instinct was to call the chief to see what he knew. And he said that, first of all, I want to reassure everyone, HPD did not participate in any way in any of this at all. I think the city's was the response team that went to the scene and transported him to Ben Taub. So thank God for the Houston Fire Department. So everything because even I was told that it was the FBI. Then when we tried to make contact with the FBI, then we were told no. Now everything goes through Washington. So then we contacted ICE Washington, and they said, well, no, now it's so it's all now being handled straight out of headquarters in Washington. So it's a federal incident. So obviously the Justice Department and the FBI are taking lead role. So, again, I've been around law enforcement that I know when that happens, and locals kind of stand down. I mean, they even do that in the movies, right?
But I'm just thinking for transparency's sake, since as Ernie had said that there's somewhat this inherent distrust.
We're outraged.
Yeah,
we're outraged. Yeah. I think the mayor was clear that he stands with the family and that he's heartbroken, just as all of us are as a city. But if the feds have control, and I also understand, and I was told from a reliable source that they've already whisked the officers involved out of the city. Okay, then you've got the other 3 who were witnesses in detention. So any investigation is going to have to happen quickly, but may lead to roadblocks, and that's the fear. That's why we need to make sure that it's independent and that it's fast. Because the longer things sit, the more you create an environment for not getting to the bottom of the truth. It's like an audit. You need to get to it. So I'm hopeful that when I make more phone calls and work on this some more, again, let me just remind everybody, it happened about 24 hours ago.
Right.
I'm working on it. I will, search top to bottom, leave no stone unturned until we get to the bottom of the truth.
We have, as we've said, we've seen incidents like this happen in other places all conventional wisdom says it should not have happened here yesterday. That should not have happened. We should have had this under control by now. I have to assume there are people across the aisle from you in Congress who also see outrage in this happening. Why has Washington, why has Congress been unable to act to stop this?
It's simple. It's Trump in the White House. He dictates all. And I have many of my colleagues tell me, Sylvia, you're right about the masks, but it's we will not agree to that because the White House doesn't want us to agree with that. Unfortunately, the faith in the system, whether it's ICE and the trust, doesn't end there. It's also with the entire Justice Department. They announced that they will be doing an investigation through the OIG of the Department of Homeland Security. That's like the fox guarding the hen house. Mm-hmm. We cannot allow just them to check themselves. Because if you ask yourself today what happened with a good investigation, I could sit here today and tell you that there's never been a release of anything. We still don't know if there was a serious investigation. So we're going to have to figure out a way to call for sort of an independent, maybe appointed commission of some sort, either through the Commission of Civil Rights or a couple of the other commissions that have looked at some of these issues to try to assemble to make sure that it's a true independent commission.
Can you not get Republicans to join on even that, to at least be open in investigations?
Not till they see what Daddy Trump wants to do.
Well, but I'm curious, when you say, so this doesn't happen again, we're talking about agents, at least for now, saying that they were doing a targeted enforcement operation. So there's enforcement of the law, and we'll have to wait to see what exactly.
And that's one of the questions that happen.
Right, but I don't understand.
What was the target? What was the enforcement?
But how do you change, basically, an officer doing his or her job enforcing the law?
Well, it's all about the leadership from the top. I mean, who decided, this is what's going to be important, who decided on that targeted enforcement, on what basis? Because, again, when you look at a man who's been a 35-year Houston resident with no criminal history, a small business owner just wanting to go out there and build houses. We have a housing crisis. That's a laudable goal. So who decided and on basis of what? Because if this is a routine traffic stop, then everybody in the Houston has to kind of fear for driving on our roads if we're going to be stopped by ICE, and this is going to be the end result. So we do have to get to the bottom of it, and I know that the Committee on Homeland Security, the Committee on Oversight, and others will be asking some of these questions next week with me, and I will try to be as vigilant as aggressive I can, because frankly, I'm like everybody else. I'm getting tired of this. Mm-hmm. We thought the change at the top was going to make a difference, but again, if they're using the same storybook, the playbook, then we need to do something about changing that playbook. And it's all about who leads the Justice Department and who leads in the White House. U.S. Congressmember Sylvia Garcia, who represents Texas 29th Congressional District. Thank you for joining us. Well, thank you for having me. And, I know it's a very
busy
to
day.
The family and the sons, our hearts with them.
Yeah. Continue to fight.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we continue, Abbie Kamin will be joining us to talk about Harris County's reaction to what has happened. This is Hello Houston.
Meet Damola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Damola to learn more about his ride.
Out now. Trusted local resources don't happen by accident. It happens because listeners like you step up. Help Houston Public Media not only meet but exceed our Resiliency Fund goal. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, it's a night of nature and science. At 7, Nature explores the wildlife of Niagara Falls, followed at 8 by Nova. Then at 9, travel the Colorado River on the American Southwest. Tonight on TV 8.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, offering electricity plans backed by 100% renewable energy for Texas homes and businesses. Learn more about renewable energy options at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manouse and guest host Robert Arnold.
Yes, hi. Welcome back to Hello Houston. We are talking with Interim County Attorney, Harris County Attorney Abbie Kamin. Thank you very much for coming in. And obviously, what we've been talking about all day is the fatal shooting on Houston's East End by an ICE agent. So thank you for coming in, and we'd like to know from Harris County's standpoint, what are you working on at this particular point regarding this shooting?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the family who we were just with, Lorenzo's boys, deserve answers. And the fact that they had to stand at a press conference today demanding information, demanding answers, demanding accountability, rather than grieving the loss of their father, in and of itself is a travesty. And this really needs to be about the family. And we have thousands and thousands of immigrant families that we are so proud that they call Houston home, that they call Harris County home, that are contributors not only to our society, but our economy. And what we are seeing, as you've heard, is this playbook rhetoric. I saw a very early on news report that came out. And this wasn't y'all by any means, but they said a suspected immigrant violator, not a father of 3 who has lived here for 35 years. And the dehumanization alone needs to be called out right now. But what we are seeing from the federal level, from the Trump administration, the lack of accountability should have every single person concerned right now.
I want to just quickly remind people that we are talking with the interim Harris County Attorney, Abbie Kamin, and that there's question as to how involved Harris County can be in this investigation, what the government blocks, what you are allowed legally to do. Where do we stand on all that? How involved can you be in this?
So, and I can't speak to the criminal investigative components of this, right? So as Harris County Attorney, I'm the chief civil law enforcement officer. But we are in communication. We've reached out to the DA's office. We stand ready to support any independent local investigation. And I think what you're hearing across the board is the demand, the call for an independent, transparent investigation into what has happened. Documents and evidence need to be preserved right now. we need answers. One thing that our office is doing is we have just stood up, it is live now on the Harris County Attorney's website, is Know Your Rights and Legal Resources for the immigrant community and for our Harris County community, because we are seeing the attacks. We are seeing the constant undermining of what we hold most dear, which is our Constitution. Regardless of immigration status, if you are in the United States, you are guaranteed constitutional protections. That applies to everyone equally, and that is the foundation of our democracy. So one of the things we're doing is providing those resources, and I want to encourage residents, if you have information, LULAC has set up a portal where you can actually submit information, you can submit videos and things of that nature. There's also resources through LULAC, so lulac.org, and I believe they've even put out a $5,000 reward for any information that leads to the indictment or exoneration of anybody involved in this. But we need answers. And I think the Congresswoman even said what we heard from the Sun today. There were 3 other individuals in the car that have now been detained and nobody can get a hold of them. They have a side to this story.
KHOU, I believe, has been showing a video or has a video of what seems to be the van pulling over, things like that. But it ends short of what we can tell is the actual incident of what happened in the moment. Do we know if the rest of that footage exists? Do we know why it stopped? What do you know?
I'm not aware. And I have just as many questions as everybody else right now. We have more questions than answers. And while this investigation will take time, we need to make sure that it is done correctly, which is why so many organizations, civil rights groups, are calling for an independent local investigation.
To you, what would that look like? I mean, to say independent, because you do have the FBI that says it's leading the investigation. I know it's all part of DOJ and it's a federal investigation. So who would you in a perfect world want to be doing the investigation?
Yeah. So there's, as you know, there's federal committee oversight tools that are available. But there are also, in any investigation involving a death of a person within the city limits, HPD can be involved in that investigation. There are different avenues. Again, I'm not saying leading investigations or things like that, but when something happens in our city, in our county, it is also our responsibility to ensure that evidence is preserved and that justice reigns at the end of the day.
But at this time, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the mayor and Chief Diaz have said that they're not pushing for that right now. I mean, they would have to be invited in, but at this time, they're not asking to be invited in. I don't know if you've spoken to your counterpart, the district attorney, Sean Tier, since you are civil, he's criminal, as to whether he'll ask if prosecutors in his civil rights division will be allowed in.
I think there need to be serious questions asked as to why the city is taking the position that it's taking. When you have so many people calling and that we are not even trying to participate in a fair process, again. So those questions need to be asked. And this is, again, the Trump administration and what we are seeing, the xenophobic targeting of our immigrant community as scapegoats. But we've also seen it at the state level. So in the county attorney's office, we've been defending a case that Ken Paxton filed, trying to stop the county from providing funding to immigrants that are going through deportation proceedings. What people don't understand, unlike in criminal proceedings, if you're in immigration court, you don't have the right to an attorney. There's a significant due process concern if you're indigent, if you can't afford, or if you're a child. And the county, for years, along with other cities and counties in Texas, had been funding legal advocacy through reputable, reliable nonprofits to assist people navigate that process. Again, relying on the importance of due process here. And Ken Paxton, because it's an election cycle, has gone after this. And just at the state Supreme Court, even though the county has prevailed at every other court, the state Supreme Court recently issued an injunction. So they didn't rule on the merits. They just said in the meantime, the program and the funding has to stop.
But the Supreme Court's not even going to, the Texas Supreme, I'll be clear.
Yes,
the Texas Supreme Court is not, it's my understanding, is not necessarily going to decide the issue. It's kicked it back down to the lower courts again.
It's still with the Court of Appeals. So the county prevailed on the merits at the lowest level, goes up to the appeals court. And they actually didn't grant Ken Paxton's request for an injunction at that time, because they even said then, even though they weren't ruling on the merits, the heart of the case, that Ken Paxton's likely not going to prevail because this is a legitimate use. So then he took a Hail Mary to the state Supreme Court, who granted this injunction. And the risk with all of this is that the funding has, in effect, stopped. You have federal funding that has stopped. So all of these nonprofits that do work across the board throughout our community don't have any funding. And it also actually stopped the funding to the Immigrant Rights Hotline. So when people have questions about Know Your Rights, there's a lot of people that are now paying attention to these headlines. They have questions. That hotline funding we have been forced to cut. Our office is standing up on our website information, Know Your Rights, as well as information on how to contact our local nonprofits, including LULAC and other organizations we partner with. So those resources are available on our website. But make no mistake, this is a full-throated effort of targeting our immigrant community, and it has to be called out by everyone.
Quickly, I want to give a programming note too. Sean Tier, the Harris County District Attorney, will be on the show tomorrow and can answer some of those questions for us. There is chatter that I continue to see where people say, well, if Lorenzo wasn't documented, none of this would have happened. He had done things correctly. He wouldn't have been in this situation. In no way, again, are we implying that this is justifiable, what happened to him. But the question remains, he was here undocumented, as we understand. He had been here 35 years and hadn't been documented. Did he not put himself into this position where something was going to happen?
I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is the fact that we even have to have a debate. Well, and I'm not suggesting you're saying this, but why is there a justification for the shooting death of a man that was on his way to work, that's the father of 3, with no criminal background, and we're focusing on his immigration status as this
something put it in motion. I think that the criticism is something put these series of events into motion.
When a stop by law enforcement, a lawful stop, should never lead to somebody dying, period. There are ways, and we know with ICE, and again, this is distinct from local law enforcement and the rigorous training that local law enforcement goes by. We know that ICE has become this rogue, renegade agency with very lax standards, with very lackluster training, and we have seen the results of this across the country. What is frustrating is whether or not we would have been having this discussion if somebody hadn't died. How many pickups have there been? How many detentions have there been of folks that are following the rules? Remember, we have people in detention centers right now that have followed the lawful process. And that's part of what the Legal Defense Fund defense work has been helping, people that have also followed the lawful process. So there is a net being cast that is entangling families and subjecting them to unconscionable pain and suffering for nothing more than a political purpose that is actually putting at risk the foundation of what our government and our country is built on.
We've been talking about that on this show, about that restriction of funding to help with legal aid for folks. And the frustration I continue to have with this is you put as a community, as a government, we put in place certain rules and regulations for people to proceed through a system so that they can correct the situation. And then you take their resources away from them to be able to use the system that you've asked them to use. That's where I come up very confused by all this.
And we've seen this in the courts, right? People are coming to their immigration hearings. People are coming and following the rules and getting picked up. And you're forcing people into the shadows. You're forcing, in criminal cases, witnesses, critical witnesses, to go into the shadow to where you can't prosecute the real criminals. If we want to talk about public safety, that's a risk. Domestic violence survivors that are afraid of coming forward right now. And it's not, I want to focus on the pain and suffering and the targeting of our immigrant community. But at the same time, we're seeing cuts and the usurpment of local control in other ways. We just joined a coalition with unions, with nonprofits and municipal organizations moving for an injunction because the Trump administration is actually trying to reorganize agencies to force government employees, public servants out. Without those employees, you can't implement critical life-saving programs, including WIC, women and children, infants and children. We're talking about nutritional health and safety, baby formula, support for those most in need. And without those programs, that lifeline has been cut off for so many in need. So this is a pattern across the board that has to be called out. But one thing I want to make sure listeners are aware of, in addition to the resources, is what we're seeing even online last night, the rhetoric, the racism, the bigotry, just the awful way in which certain people are responding to this. Everyone can do their part to call that out, to say we do things differently here in Houston. We do things differently here in Harris County. We believe in the rule of law and the respect for the people that we live alongside, that we know. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are our family members.
Another topic that keeps coming up in chat, and to clarify that immigration infractions are a civil issue, not criminal, which carries certain different reactions too.
Yeah, they're civil. And if you recall, months ago, right, this debate we had even on City Council about administrative warrants that are civil in nature and that ICE is creating. So they're actually putting people into a system that, again, to entangle them when these are civil matters, not criminal matters. Now, if somebody has done something that endangers the community from a public safety perspective, I trust local law enforcement to address that regardless of immigration status. But what we're seeing isn't that.
But that's a policy issue based on who's in the White House at this point, because let's be honest, because now we're getting off track, but that's a much wider issue of immigration and how we're going to enforce the laws. The Trump administration believes that the Biden administration was way too lax on it, so now it's gone the other way. So, this is seemingly going to be a problem that is going to kind of ping pong back and forth depending on who's in the White House at the time in how they decide to enforce immigration laws.
It does, but remember, there was a significant compromise by Congress that was reached that Trump intentionally interfered with. And Congress must act. We must reform our immigration system. DACA recipients are relying on us for this. So many families are relying on us for this, but it's not just the federal government, and we have to stop enabling what is happening, which is lawlessness and a lack of accountability by government. We have to make sure that the rule of law is followed, full stop.
What do you see coming out in the next few days, weeks with this situation? Where do you think it's going? What do you think we're going to have? Do you think that this is it? We're not going to get any more information, or where do you feel?
I want to recognize all of the leaders that are speaking out. So in addition to our office, I was standing alongside Commissioner Briones.
You were part of the press conference at 10 a.m.
the press
today.
conference, she has spoken out. Commissioner Ellis, Commissioner Garcia, certain council members have spoken out. We have congressional reps and state reps that are standing up, Representative Jean Wu and Representative Christina Morales, among many others. So I want to, while we are in we are witnessing a tragedy, and remember we were promised, that won't happen here. But it has. And we are witnessing a tragedy, and we cannot be bystanders. But there are many people that are speaking out, that are standing up, and are demanding accountability. So while I don't know what the future holds, if we'll get, for example, in Minnesota, local authorities did step up and did decide to file against those ICE officers after the investigation unfolded. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that there are people standing up and speaking out, and it is our job to stand with the community right now, to stand with families that are in pain, and to demand accountability, transparency, and the rule of law and the respect for the rule of law and our Constitution.
And you may not have an answer to this, but all too often in these situations, we do see a lot of people come together in front of microphones and speak out, and things never change. From your knowledge of the workings of government and what you have seen in the different offices you've held, what can actually be done at this point? Can we do anything, or is it just going to be another moment where it reminds me of school shootings? People wring their hands, talk about how we have to have reform, and then things just fade away again until the next shooting.
Yeah, well, I'm not giving up. And, we talk about school shootings, an issue I care very deeply about, and gun violence generally, whether you're in a domestic violence situation or a child in a school or a child that's gotten a hold of an unsecured firearm. And that's why I had worked so closely with our trauma centers to actually launch the most comprehensive firearm injury dashboard in the country that is publicly available. And we're distributing free gun locks and free gun safes and educating families. So this is something that we are seeing across the country. But I do believe that we are at a moment in history where we can bend the arc towards justice and we can continue the fight. But it will require people standing up. It will require action, and it will require speaking truth to power, especially when that power is seeking to undermine our Republican democracy. And it all comes down to what our nation stands for and making sure that everybody is afforded equal rights and equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for coming in and talking with us today. I know it's a difficult time and there's a lot going on, and taking the time to talk is we've got to have the conversations.
We've got to have the conversations. And again, we need to see action. I think it's really fair what you pointed out. We need to see action. I will say this is a time that requires courage by those not just speaking on a microphone, but the courage to act. Mm-hmm. And people need to grow a spine.
Abbie Kamin is the interim Harris County attorney. Thank you for coming in and talking with us.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more Hello Houston right after this.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, presenting The Indigo Girls with special guest Linda Perry, October 15th. Tickets available at smartfinancialcenter.net. Support comes from Southwest Woman Care OBGYN, providing care for women of all ages, including well woman exams, pregnancy care, menopause care, and fibroid treatment in a multilingual setting. More at swwobgyn.com.
Support also comes from Rice University's Moody Center for the Arts, presenting Summer Jam, an afternoon of art activities featuring an indoor farmers market, live DJ, outdoor games, and more. Saturday, July 18th at 5 p.m., moody.rice.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Discovery Green, presenting Kicks and Coffee, featuring pickup soccer games and skill exercises for all ages. Saturday mornings throughout the summer. More information at discoverygreen.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Robert Arnold.
Thank you and welcome back to Hello Houston. We're going to pivot here. We've been talking all morning long about the fatal ICE shooting of an individual by an ICE agent on the East End, but we're going to, as I said, pivot now because sometimes life can be chaotic, and when this happens, many of us will often seek refuge in a quiet, meditative place away from the chaos to allow ourselves a moment or moments of reprieve. For Houstonians, one such place might be the Rothko Chapel, a famous Houston cultural landmark that has, for more than 50 years, served as a sanctuary for reflection or contemplation, in addition to a spiritual destination for people of all faiths around the world. So joining us now to discuss the importance of contemplative spaces and how they can help support our mental health is Kelly Johnson, the Chief Engagement Officer at the Rothko Chapel. Thank you very much and welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
It's funny, you started that by saying switching gears, but in some way this is right in gear with maybe what a lot in the community need today.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I was just as I came into work today, I did stop by the chapel myself just to take a quiet moment to sit on a bench, take in, the dimly lit environment, take in the paintings, and really just breathe. And I will say I'm feeling a very heavy heart with the news that came out yesterday, as well as with, the onslaught of continuous news over the past, decades, but even just, this past July 4th weekend, right, of all kind of these things that we're trying to live up to and celebrating our country, and yet all the gap that we still have to cross to be a place that where everybody can live with dignity and freedom. So I encourage others to take that moment to come visit us and just have a quiet moment for yourself, for your heart, breathe, feel your body, and ground ourselves in this moment.
Okay, I'm one of the people you need to talk to because I remember one time someone saying, Ernie, you should try yoga. And I said, I don't have time to do yoga. And I think we all fall into a place, especially from where I sit, it's like I'm looking for solutions. I'm looking for answers. We've got to do something, not just sitting there and relaxing. Tell me about it.
Right.
But there is a very important part to being able to fight the battles we need to fight, which feel almost daily, by being equipped with what you offer.
That's right. We encourage folks to really see the chapel as a tool in the toolbox or, a resource in their kit to be able to use on a regular basis to build up your contemplation and kind of really grounded muscles. We all need time to recharge, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're feeling. And so, even if you've been to the chapel before, we'd love to invite you back and experience in a new light. I'm our Chief Engagement Officer, so we do all kinds of programming throughout the year. We just honored 2 different immigrants' rights advocacy groups from Texas who are doing work to support, these targeted populations in our state. And so our hearts are also right with Fiel and others in Houston who are responding to the moment here. But I also encourage folks to join us for the rallying cries for human rights alongside, this important contemplation. We see it in the cycle of contemplation and action. You go into the chapel, you have your even just 5 minutes of slowing down, of, letting your heart rest, of breathing deeply, and kind of recentering yourself is a contemplation piece inside the chapel. You go outside, and we also have an iconic symbol of now Houston, the Broken Obelisk by Barnett Newman. There's a long story there, but it's dedicated to the legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And you're called to action to complete the unfinished work of civil rights, of democracy, and working together to build beloved community. So we see that in like the cycle, right? You need to come to the chapel, have your moment, you come outside, bright Texas light, you see the obelisk, and it's time to go back out into community and do good collective work.
So speak to people who've never heard of the Rothko Chapel until this morning. So a couple things. First of all, where do they find you? And 2, when you use the word chapel, for most people, you start to think, okay, there's going to be an altar, there's hymnals and all. This is not that kind of chapel. So where are you? And when somebody goes there, what do they do exactly when you get there?
Right. Thanks for letting us take a step back. Yes. Yeah. So we can be a hidden gem in Houston. We are located in the Montrose neighborhood, just nestled between the University of St. Thomas on one side and the Menil Collection on the other. A common misconception is that we're part of the Menil Collection. We have the same founders. We came in 1971, dedicated as an interfaith space featuring these large 14-foot paintings by artist Mark Rothko. Mm-hmm. They're abstract, dark purples. They kind of envelop you in this surrounding environment. We consider the entire building, paintings, the light to be part of this immersive art experience that is meant to inspire quietness, contemplation. Again, as I was talking about, like the impact of it is really to get you to slow down, to reset. And that was the artist's intention with all of his work, is to kind of have the colors, the textures, even the layout of his work to be an all-encompassing environment that would affect an emotional response.
So there's just a large, open space, a lot of open spaces where you can just come and sit and, as you said, be quiet. What's the address specifically?
Yes, 3900 Yupon Street.
Got it.
Yep. And what else I will say about the space and kind of ways to interact with it is, so upon first coming in, we have a bench that has different sacred texts from different religious traditions that you can, it's just, symbolic as a reminder of this is a space that's available to people of all religions, faith backgrounds, as well as none. We have a lot of fans who are atheists or agnostics. They feel like, right, they have in that space a connection to whatever they may consider the divine or something that just brings us larger connection to one another. So we have those sacred texts that you can read. You can also just come. There's no right or wrong way to visit. I think that's important for people to know. Some people come to look at the artwork. Some people come to have a quiet moment. It's different every time you visit too, because it has a skylight in the space. That's another important element of the experience. Texas weather is very differing hour to hour, moment by moment. So one of my favorite times to go in there is on a sunny, cloudy, windy day, because you can really feel the element of light as the clouds drift over the skylight. It just becomes another experience. And then I also will just plug to follow us on all of our social media accounts to see when we have upcoming events. Actually, tomorrow night we have a book launch by a local reverend who has done some research on the political theologies of populism. So doing some analysis on political movements in the U.S. as it's tied to different religious traditions. We're doing that in honor of reflecting on the 250th anniversary of the U.S. And thinking about the intersection of art, politics, and faith. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to experience the chapel.
What are the hours?
The hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's also just a place where I think, we've been talking a lot about the chapel as a third space. So kind of first and second spaces are work and home. Those are where you spend the most time. And we're seeing a diminishing availability of free third spaces, that space where you go that is not your home or your work, where you can meet other people in community, you can encounter people different from you. And so I think that's another important role that the chapel plays in the Houston community, is being a place where you may encounter someone that you would never run into elsewhere in the city. And it's also free and air-conditioned.
Oh, well, you have me at air-conditioned. Now I'm interested.
And no ticket, no reservation,
no ticket, no reservations needed. Yeah, please just come by and have the experience.
I want to go back just for 1 second. We're about to run out of time. But when you talk about the changing and shifting light in there, and that's part of the beauty of the paintings, is are they solid black? No, wait, there's something going on here. And as the lights shift and change, different things reveal themselves within those works of art.
That's absolutely right. And, I like to extend that experience in the space to the metaphor of the more that we look at our neighbors, right, the people that surround us, the more that we develop this richer relationship and understand people are more complex than they might seem at the surface. So there's lots of metaphors built into the chapel that over time coming to be with us and spend time in that space, I think more of, the great things about life will reveal themselves as well.
And not to say that you are one and the same, but you're right there on the Manil campus. So for people who are listening and hearing Saul Ross and street addresses, it's right there by the Manil.
Absolutely. We've got a great neighborhood park surrounding us. So come out, and even if you just pop in for a couple minutes, it's well worth it.
It's well worth it. Kelly Johnson is the Chief Engagement Officer at the Rothko Chapel. Thank you for coming. The perfect way to end a show that we've had today with some calm and some peace. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That brings us to the end of the show for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversation. Also, as we mentioned, the County DA will be with us, Sean Tier, to talk a little bit more about what's going on. And also, as always, it's Thursday already. We'll be talking about our current obsessions, and we want to hear yours. So start sending them to us at talk@hellohouston.org. We'll be sharing those tomorrow. Okay, folks, have a good rest of your day. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
Nice sunny day.